Imagine pushing your body up a snow-covered mountain, right? Your arms are just driving those poles into the ice until your heart is hammering against your ribs.
Yeah, roughly like 180 beats per minute.
Exactly. Like your lungs are just absolutely screaming for oxygen. And then
Yeah.
you have to stop completely. You literally drop to the snow, pick up a rifle, and try to shoot a target the size of a golf ball from 50 meters away.
It's wild.
And you have to time your trigger pull for that tiny fraction of a millisecond between your heartbeats. Because if you don't, the vibration of your own pulse will literally make you miss.
It is, well, it's the ultimate physiological paradox.
Right.
I mean, you are slamming the gas pedal of your cardiovascular system all the way to the floor, and then, demanding this absolute zen-like fine motor control the very next second. It totally defies how the human nervous system is supposed to work.
And that impossible reality is exactly what we are diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. For you listening, whether you live and breathe sports analytics or you're just endlessly fascinated by human potential, we've got a lot to cover.
We really do.
Because our mission today is to unpack this massive stack of updates from Week 11 of the year 2026. We're looking at this pivotal convergence of global female athletic achievements, which all culminates in the awe-inspiring, frankly, mind-bending performances at the 2026 Winter Paralympics in Milano Cortina.
Yeah, the performances there are just
Unreal, right? So we're going to break down the mechanics, the psychology, and the cultural shifts happening across the globe right now. Okay, let's unpack this.
right. And to really understand the gravity of what is happening in Milano Cortina, we have to recognize the broader ecosystem this week.
It's not happening in a vacuum.
Exactly. This isn't just a cluster of random tournaments. We are seeing a synchronized global surge in how women's sports are played, how they're funded, and how they're consumed.
Right, because before we even hit the snow in Italy, you've got Europe actively celebrating Women in Sport Week.
Which is huge.
It is. It's heavily focused on grassroots participation, equality, and worldwide visibility. And simultaneously, the spring sports infrastructure is just hitting the accelerator.
Yeah, everyone's gearing up.
You've got the NWSL in the U.S., the FA Women's Super League in the U.K., and all these other European domestic leagues deep into early season competitions and preseason friendlies.
Which, by the way, is where the real tactical evolution happens. You think the friendlies are that important?
Oh, absolutely. Those preseason friendlies aren't just warm-ups. They are, they're laboratories, basically.
Oh, I like that. Laboratories.
Yeah, this is where managers are testing out new tactical lineups. They're experimenting with high-pressing systems, integrating emerging players into highly complex systems-based soccer. They are figuring out the geometry of the pitch before the grueling regular season locks them into, a rigid schedule. That makes sense. And it's honestly the exact same pressure cooker in American collegiate sports right now.
Oh, the conference battles are ruthless right now.
Ruthless is the word. Like, in the SEC, you've got the number 11 Tennessee Lady Vols walking into a total gauntlet against ranked opponents like Auburn and Florida.
Which is never an easy stretch.
Never. And then in the Big Ten, Mia Mack of the Iowa Hawkeyes is putting on an absolute clinic. She just secured Co-Player of the Week honors.
She's been incredible to watch.
Just dominating. And over in the Missouri Valley Conference, the Drake Bulldogs doubles team, Jordan Dukey and Majid Dodik, are just sweeping conference awards.
Yeah, they're really making a name for themselves.
But honestly, as I look at these college stats, I have to ask you something.
Sure.
Is this level of intense, localized conference play actually translating to the global stage? Or is it, just regional hype?
Well, what's fascinating here is that these collegiate conferences are essentially the R&D departments for global professional sports.
The R&D departments.
Yeah, because the sheer density of talent in a conference like the SEC or the Big Ten, it forces a tactical arms race. When Mia Mack dominates in the Big Ten, she isn't just hitting the ball harder.
Right.
She is surviving a gauntlet of different play styles week after week. That adaptability is exactly what forges the pipeline for the professional circuits. The infrastructure is expanding horizontally to reach new fans, but it's also pushing the elite tactical boundaries vertically.
Okay, I get that. But let me challenge that idea of how we reach new fans for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because there was a moment this week at the Indian Wells tennis tournament that totally hijacked the sports news cycle.
Yeah.
And it had absolutely nothing to do with tactics.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
You know where I'm going, right? Aryna Sabalenka, the world number one. She's entering the BNP Paribas Open as a heavy favorite. She is an absolute powerhouse.
Oh, yeah. Completely dominant.
But the viral headline wasn't about her baseline strategy. It was a moment during her warm-up where fans tossed her a wedding veil and a bouquet.
To celebrate her recent engagement, right?
Right. And she played along. She put the veil on right there on the court, caught the bouquet, and the clip just exploded online.
It was everywhere.
But honestly, doesn't it bother you that the world number one is getting more global attention for playing dress-up with a veil than for, her massive topspin forehand? Aren't we just rewarding the TikTokification of sports?
I mean, I get why it feels that way. It's tempting to view it as a distraction, but if you look at the underlying sociology of fan acquisition, that viral moment is basically a masterclass in modern sports PR.
A masterclass.
Definitely. Look, tactical excellence, the topspin forehand, that's what secures the die-hard legacy fan. But human connection is what captures the casual viewer. When Sabalenka leans into that spontaneous, joyful moment, she shatters the glass wall between the untouchable elite gladiator and the relatable human being.
So it's like a Trojan horse.
Exactly.
You hook them with the relatable engagement video on social media, and suddenly they stick around to watch her serve at 120 miles per hour.
Precisely. It expands the global footprint of the sport because it invites people into the ecosystem who might not understand the nuances of a break point.
Right, they don't know the Mac of tennis.
But they fundamentally understand human joy. It doesn't diminish her athletic gravitas at all. It just adds a layer of approachability that is completely essential for growing the game's commercial viability.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You need the rigid, intense pipeline of the college circuits to build the athlete.
Right.
But you need that spontaneous, humanizing reality of the pro circuit to build the icon.
Exactly. Well put.
And that transition, from the calculated buildup to the raw, visceral peak of human capability, that brings us right to mid-March at the 2026 Winter Paralympic Games in Milano Cortina.
It is the absolute crucible of high performance.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The logistical scale of Milano Cortina is just staggering.
It's massive this year.
We are looking at 665 athletes across 6 sports. You've got para-biathlon, para-alpine skiing, para-snowboard, wheelchair curling, and there are more than 79 medal events.
Yeah, the scale is unprecedented.
But let me play devil's advocate here. 79 medal events. If we keep slicing the pie into smaller and smaller physical classifications, don't we risk diluting the prestige of the Olympic gold?
How do you mean?
Like, if there's a medal for every highly specific niche, does the podium still hold the same weight?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the volume of those 79 events is actually the exact opposite of dilution. It is about establishing true competitive parity.
Parity. Okay, explain that.
So in able-bodied sports, you don't ask a heavyweight boxer to fight a featherweight, right?
No, of course not. That would be ridiculous.
Because the biomechanical advantages make it a totally meaningless contest. In adaptive sports, the classifications ensure that athletes are competing on the basis of skill, tactics, and endurance, not the arbitrary nature of their physical impairment.
I see. It levels the playing field so the actual athletic skill shines through?
Exactly. But more importantly, expanding to 665 athletes forces the global media infrastructure to build a wider lens. For decades, adaptive sports had to fight for, table scraps of broadcast time.
Oh, 100%. It was barely on TV.
Right. So this massive scale normalizes the presence of adaptive athletes. It demands that the world pays attention to the incredible depth of talent currently operating.
You can't ignore it when it's that massive. You just can't.
No, you can't.
And within that massive scale, we are seeing 2 completely different athletic masterclasses playing out. First, you have Oksana Masters.
A total legend.
Absolute legend. She captures gold in the women's para-biathlon sprint sitting event, extending her status as one of the most decorated Winter Paralympians ever.
Yeah, she is inevitable at this point.
But then, on the flip side, over in para-snowboard, you have Kate Delson winning gold in the women's banked slalom SBLL2 category, which marks one of the most explosive breakout performances of the Games.
2 gold medals, but 2 radically different psychological and biomechanical realities.
It's like physics, right? Oksana Masters is at terminal velocity. She's been at the top so long, she has to constantly fight the friction of aging, expectation, and a field that is literally training specifically to beat her.
That's a great way to put it.
And then Kate Delson, is a rocket launch. She's experiencing this massive blinding G-force of sudden acceleration onto the world stage. But wait, before we get into the psychology, what exactly is the SBLL2 category?
Ah, right. So SBLL2 stands for Snowboard Lower Limb 2.
Lower limb 2. Okay.
It generally includes athletes with an impairment in one or both legs, such as, a below-knee amputation or significant muscle weakness.
Gotcha. So how does that change the way Delson actually maneuvers a snowboard?
Well, in a banked slalom, the biomechanics are incredibly complex. A snowboarder typically relies heavily on ankle flexion and precise knee drive to carve through those tight, steeply banked turns.
Right. You need your knees to absorb the shock and steer.
Exactly. So when you lack full function in those lower extremities, you have to compensate. You have to generate massive torque through your core, your hips, and your upper body. Delson had to master a completely adapted physics of turning at high speeds.
And she did it flawlessly on the biggest stage imaginable,
Yes, she did.
which is just mind-blowing. And mentally, I have to assume the pressure on Delson is completely different from Masters. With Delson, I almost feel like ignorance is bliss.
How so?
Like she doesn't have a decade of gold medals to defend. She just drops it into rides.
Well, the adrenaline of a breakout is powerful, sure, but ignorance is bliss only lasts until you realize you are actually in the gold medal position midway through the run.
Oh, man. Yeah, that realization must hit like a freight train.
Then the psychological weight of the unknown just crashes down on you. Delson had to manage the sudden, shocking realization of her own potential without, a reservoir of past Paralympic experience to ground her.
Contrast that with Oksana Masters.
Exactly. For Masters, the challenge is sustain, relentless excellence. When you are the favorite for over a decade, you are no longer competing against the field. You are competing against your own legacy.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Every competitor from dominant nations like the USA, Canada, Ukraine, they have been studying her technique for years.
They're reverse engineering her success.
Precisely. They are analyzing how she generates propulsion in the sitting biathlon using purely her lats, triceps, and core. Staying on top requires a level of disciplined focus that is almost mathematically impossible to maintain over multiple Olympic cycles. She has a permanent target on her back.
So what does this all mean? We look at Masters defending her empire, we look at Delson kicking the door down, and we obsess over these gold medals.
We always do.
But the deeper I look into the actual events taking place in Italy, the more I realize that the truest narrative of the Paralympics has almost nothing to do with the podium.
I completely agree.
It's about the technical crucible itself. Let's go back to the biathlon at Tesoro. You explained the paradox earlier, the 180 beat per minute heart rate combined with dead still precision shooting.
Right.
But it's not just the biathlon that requires this insane technical mastery. Look at the women's Super G alpine skiing.
Oh, the Super G is just unforgiving.
Seriously.
It stands for Supergiant Slalom, and it merges the terrifying downhill speed of alpine racing with the technical turns of a slalom.
Right. And you have athletes doing this in sitting classifications or incredibly visually impaired classifications. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around that. How does a visually impaired skier navigate a sheet of ice at 70 miles per hour?
It requires an absolute fundamental surrender of trust.
Trust in what or who?
In their guide, visually impaired skiers race with a sighted guide who skis slightly ahead or behind them, and they are connected via headsets.
Oh, wow.
The guide is essentially acting as the athlete's eyes. They're calling out the terrain, the line, the changes in pitch, and the exact moment to initiate a carve at highway speeds.
That is terrifying.
The athlete has to process that audio information and translate it instantly into minute biomechanical adjustments while hurtling down a mountain.
Just reacting on fate.
Exactly. The spatial awareness and the synchronized telepathy required between the guide and the skier, it honestly defies standard athletic metrics.
It really is a level of teamwork that able-bodied sports rarely even approach. And that brings me to a story that really anchored this whole week for me. Korean skier Choi Sara.
Ah, yes. Her story is incredible.
She was competing in the alpine events, but she was dealing with a severe knee injury.
Which in Super G is devastating.
Right. And she didn't win gold. She didn't even make the podium. She finished completely outside the medals. Yet she received this massive wave of global praise for her determination. To me, she is the ultimate counterexample to our obsession with podium finishes.
This raises an important question, right? How do we fundamentally assign value to an athletic performance?
Yeah, because we usually just look at who got the gold.
Exactly. The podium is a highly specific measurement. It measures who was the fastest under a specific set of rules on one particular day. But it is a terrible metric for measuring human resilience.
Because just surviving a Super G course on a blown-out knee is a monumental achievement in itself.
Exactly. When you introduce the variable of a severe physical compromise into an environment that is already pushing the boundaries of physics, the context of the race shifts entirely.
It becomes a totally different sport.
Choi Sara's performance wasn't about beating the clock. It was about conquering the mountain and her own biology. The global praise she received isn't pity.
No, not at all.
It is profound, deep-seated respect. Her determination embodies the foundational spirit of the Paralympic Games. It proves that the grit required to simply show up and throw yourself into the technical crucible when your body is screaming at you to stop is just as valuable as the hardware handed out at the end.
It redefines what winning actually looks like.
It really does.
And really, that brings this entire deep dive full circle. When we started unpacking Week 11 of 2026, we were looking at this massive, complex ecosystem.
Right, from the grassroots all the way up.
Yeah. We saw the intense tactical R&D happening in the collegiate tennis courts with Mia Mack and the Drake Bulldogs. We analyzed the sociological brilliance of Aryna Sabalenka, humanizing the sport with a wedding veil at Indian Wells.
Which was genius.
We tracked the global visibility push of Women in Sport Week and the rigorous preseason experimentation in professional soccer.
And we followed that momentum all the way to its absolute pinnacle on the icy slopes of Milano Cortina.
We saw the biomechanical marvels of Oksana Masters operating at terminal velocity, Kate Delson managing the G-force of a breakout run, and the raw, unyielding grit of Choi Sara.
It's been an incredible week.
For you listening, the reason we wanted to take you into the mechanics of all this is because this is not just a sports recap. We are observing a real-time, global cultural shift. We are watching the world fundamentally upgrade how it values, how it analyzes, and how it celebrates female athletes in adaptive sports.
It's not a niche category anymore.
Not at all. It is the bleeding edge of human performance.
It is a profound evolution.
Yeah.
And as we look at the sheer scope of these achievements, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over long after we wrap up today.
All right, let's hear it.
We are seeing a unique convergence right now. Adaptive sports technology, tactical innovations, and global media visibility are all accelerating side by side at an unprecedented rate.
Yeah, the progress is wild.
The athletes of today are doing things that were considered physically impossible 20 years ago. So, as we look ahead, how might the Paralympic performances of the next decade fundamentally reshape our everyday definition of peak human potential?
Man, when the impossible becomes the baseline, where do we go next? It's a fascinating question. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Week 11. We'll catch you next time.